The Hytale countdown has begun as the team revealed the hardware requirements to run the game. We have two new clips to break down, one much better than the other, as well as much more Hytale news. First, Simon showed us the main menu for Hytale, claiming it will go through a lot of changes during early access, but that this is the current version. We see the player character standing there with options for worlds, minigames, servers, and avatar. According to Simon, there will be variations of this menu, one of which we see here, but can likely expect more. We also get to see what the menu looks like if we select worlds, opening a browser for creating and editing your own. Here we see four. The first is called Testing Stuff, with an ominous mountain raised high in the background, likely a tease at their new world generation. The second is called Curse Breakers, a key word the team have been using in connection to the early access story, as well as it being the top pre-order tier. The third server speaks for itself. It looks like a lot of chaos in general, likely a modded world. And the fourth is interestingly titled Do Not Show This to Reddit, with what I do believe is an ice dragon, which we saw in the thumbnail for the original Hytale trailer. Pre-orders for Hytale have been confirmed to go live on December 13th, that's 1 month before the game launches, and the team have even set up a countdown page for release day, hytale.com/countdown. This is actually a great callback to the original countdown that the team made way back before they revealed the trailer in 2018. As mentioned, the team shared the minimum hardware requirements to play Hytale, suggesting three main categories. There's the minimum specs that target 30 FPS at 1080p on a low preset, recommended targets 60 FPS at 1080p on a high preset, and for recording or streaming the game they aim for a stable frame rate with high quality video capture and streaming at 1440p. What I'm going to do is show each of the requirements, but I'm not going to break absolutely every detail down, as people who really want to can just pause. Just know that to actually play the game, it doesn't require too much. Most machines built after like 2015, 2016 can probably run it. Just note that it does need a 64-bit processor and operating system. Skip to the timestamp on the screen if you don't need all the details. The minimum requirements for 1080p at 30 FPS, which is the low preset, need Windows 10 or Windows 11 with an Intel Core i5 7500, an AMD Ryzen 3 1200 or an equivalent CPU. For single player with a dedicated graphics card, it will require 8GB of RAM, but with integrated graphics it's actually going to need 12GB of RAM. However, if you're just playing multiplayer, you again only need about 8GB of RAM. For dedicated GPUs, you'll want an Nvidia GTX 900 series, an AMD Radeon 400 series, or an Intel Arc A series. They recommend that if your hardware is closer to these settings, to run the game with no other programs open and with the view distance set to 192 blocks. Now for the recommended requirements to hit 1080p at 60 FPS, the option most of us will be looking to go for, they suggest an Intel Core i5 10400, AMD Ryzen 5 3600, or an equivalent CPU, so this is going to be more likely your 6-core processors. For RAM, you'll need 16GB across the board for both single player and multiplayer. If you're using VRAM, the developer Slikey actually clarified it's 2GB minimum and 4GB for recommended. We also see the dedicated GPU required for the recommended setting is the same as the minimum requirements. Anyone watching this who knows about hardware understands this is going to imply Hytale is very CPU intensive. Likely it's largely driven by RAM. If you're looking to record or stream Hytale, the requirements are going to be a little bit higher for 1440p at 60 FPS. They say you're going to need an Intel Core i7 10700K, AMD Ryzen 9 3800X, or an equivalent CPU, with 32GB of RAM, and for GPU, either an Nvidia RTX 30 series, AMD Radeon RX 7000 series, or again an Intel Arc A series. After this, they also clarify that they did record an internal benchmark that was quite impressive, a PC with AMD Ryzen 9 9950X3D, an Nvidia RTX 580 with 64GB DDR5 RAM, apparently sustained around 400 FPS at 1440p with view distance set to 768 blocks in single player while recording the game in AV1. That's a lot, I know. Basically, to hit a very high performance in Hytale while streaming, it's going to require a lot of RAM to run this game. To clarify why single player is going to be so demanding, the team explained with single player, your machine runs the full game client including AI rendering, UI, and gameplay, plus the entire simulation on the server like NPCs, world gen updates, and networking layers. They say this increases CPU and RAM usage compared to multiplayer. Generally, the server or single player requires more CPU performance due to NPCs, world generation, and voxel logic running on your computer. In multiplayer, they say the servers run remotely. Your PC only actually handles the graphics and gameplay, which typically results in better performance on the same hardware. They say if you intend to play on multiplayer or minigames only, you may actually be able to use less than the requirements they listed. Obviously, mods will cause all of these requirements to vary depending on the size of things that are added, and another major factor will be view distance. The major problem of view distance is that every time you double the view distance setting, you actually quadruple the amount of world around you. That means you have 4 times as many blocks and NPCs, which are all causing your computer to work much harder. They say we recommend you experience Hytale with a view distance of 384 blocks. We designed Orbis around this distance, but if that isn't enough for you, they do later show some images of players being able to reach up to a 1024 block view distance. They say Hytale is a sandbox voxel game, which means it cares more about CPU performance and RAM than many other games. Once your GPU meets our minimum specs, upgrading your CPU and having enough system memory will usually help more than actually buying an even faster graphics card. They say, as a rule of thumb, make sure your GPU meets or exceeds our listed minimums, including that of the VRAM. They say that Hytale prefers a dedicated or discrete GPU over an integrated one on laptops. After that, they say you need to focus on a solid multi-core CPU and enough RAM, rather than investing a lot of money into a top-end GPU, which won't help as much, and they often cost a lot of money. They say, quote, expect performance to improve further as we progress through early access and beyond. The team confirms also they are actively working to bring Hytale to Linux and Mac as soon as possible. Quote, we are still working on the system requirements for Mac and Linux, which we intend to support for older Macs with Intel processors and newer Macs with M1 Plus Apple processors. We will update this post as we receive more data. They said we received a lot of inquiries about the Steam Deck too, and we also lack the ability to test it right now, so we don't plan to launch on Steam until we determine our ability to comply with their policies. They say that on paper it should work on Steam Deck, but they still need to look into it, so they ask for some patience. The team also clarified that if you do have a computer that can't run single player very well, you should just join a friend and play with them on their single player or play online servers, as they showed much better performance. For storage requirements on your actual PC, the team say Hytale procedurally generates a world that can, in practice, grow without a fixed limit. Based on extensive playtime in exploration mode, we found these numbers to be representative of a normal playthrough. Keep in mind, the more you explore, customize, and build with a variety of blocks, the more memory and storage the game will require. Hytale will apparently have an installation size of 8 GB and an average save game size specifically in exploration mode, which reaches about 660 megabytes for a 5000 by 5000 block area. That's about 27 kilobytes per 32 by 32 chunk. They recommend at least 10 gigabytes of available storage, with 20 being a safe bet to enjoy the game for a long duration, and they say that an SSD is also strongly recommended. With just over a week until we can pre-order and just over 40 days until we can play it, people are starting to get even more excited and rightfully more curious about what they can do when they get Hytale. In the first clip, the team showcases the glider, which you'll be able to craft and use in exploration mode. The team said they saw a lot of people request it, so they'll include it in early access. They do say it is rough and to expect many improvements post-launch, but until then, they say have fun exploring. The player swoops down from a desert canyon in this clip. We get a better look at World Gen version 1 for Zone 2. We see 2 players over here with a giant scorpion as well, which I don't think we've ever seen before. There's also something flying in the distance, maybe a bird or possibly a flying scarab. We even see a campsite and some scarab mounds here as the player turns. When they jump to equip the glider, we also see another scorpion below, and a worrying detail here, the blue feather on the glider actually reminds me of the blue feather we get in the next clip of the Quebec. Let's hope that's not how you actually craft a glider. Maybe I'm just getting paranoid, which you'll understand why next. The player swings round as we see a distant wizard tower, as well as a circle of pillars, like a monument of some kind. The player then lands by a camel with a shell that we've seen once before in a screenshot. Now, the next video I'm less excited to talk about. In fact, I wasn't even going to cover it on the channel, but this was bound to happen eventually, so I guess we should just rip the band-aid off. Redunes, a Minecraft creator who used to make a lot of videos about Hytale, posted a clip that Simon sent him showing what I can only describe as the transgressions of a madman. I don't even want to analyze this clip. I'm disgusted. The Quebecs will get their revenge. Mark my words, you have no idea the power we wield. It is nice to get a closer look at a Quebec treehouse. All things aside, it's like a watchtower or outpost of sorts, decorated with some glowing foliage, some carvings of the god of this world, Gaia, and we even get a look at multi-block furniture structures in the form of these tables. Currently, Quebecs just drop apples, so, you know, no actual real incentive to ever harm them, because, like, you'd already be in a tree at this point and could likely just find an apple. This clip shouldn't exist. It has has no purpose. This is the worst clip of Hytale that's ever released in all consideration. January 13th may be the date that the game launches, but remember not to sleep on December 13th, as not only do pre-orders launch, but our community Hytale charity event will be taking place. Speaking of community, Simon even posted a new banner for his profile picture created by one of the community's favorite artists, Crimson Crow, stating, "We're coming home," showing Simon holding the hand of a Quebec and Ferren, along with a dog, a cave raptor, pigeon, and a little baby troll. All of these referencing existing Hytale mobs as they walk towards a doorway that likely leads to Orbis. Click the video on screen and or subscribe to stay notified about all Hytale news, stay safe, and keep free.